What's going on, guys? This is Kiana the Courier. I'm just trying to get these people their lunch today. I wanted to talk about a podcast. So I'm like really big into podcasting, and that's what I do a lot of the times when I'm delivering food, is listen to a podcast. So I've been binging Have You Seen This Man podcast about wanted people who have basically broken out of prison or whatever. And so this one season is about this guy named Lester Eubanks, who murdered this 14-year-old girl back in the 70s. He was in prison for a minute. He was on death row, but during the time that he was on death row, actually a day before he got executed, they made the death penalty unconstitutional wherever he was. So he ended up just being in prison for life. They created this program where inmates could earn points, and if they got a certain amount of points, then they were given rewards and kind of like, good behavior program basically. And so he was one of the great, one of the well-behaved inmates, and he ended up getting a trip to the mall, the local mall. And so they put him in regular clothes. Took him to the mall, dropped them off. It was him and a few other guys. Dropped them off at the mall and basically gave them like, okay, at this time, we'll meet back up at this place and we'll take you back to the prison. He did not return, and he's been gone ever since. Mind you, it's 2022. I want to say this podcast came out maybe a year or so ago, and on the last episode of the podcast, he still was missing. And so of course the podcast is they follow the U.S. Marshals, and then they interview a few people that may have known him, family members and things like that, just to get more information. And so I have this thought, right? He's been missing, or he's been a fugitive and wanted for all these years, and you would think that like somebody that should be in prison would have gotten in trouble again and been caught. But he has successfully lived in society without committing any crimes. Granted, he probably had to use a different identity because he was wanted, but I don't know. I know that this is very progressive, but my thought is just that if somebody has proven that they can operate in society without causing any more trouble, without murdering people. At one point, he even held a job, and they interviewed his boss, and she said that that Lester was always on time. He always did his work. He was intelligent. Like, she didn't have any issues with him, so he went and got a job and was able to hold down the job. And, he lived with some relatives and he played like a father figure, well, a mentor to one of his relatives as he was growing up. And so I'm like, why continue to pursue this man? They said at this point he's in his mid-70s. So if he's still alive and he's 75 years old, hasn't caused any trouble in all of these 40 years that he's been on the run, why continue to pursue him just to throw him back in prison where he was so well behaved that they let him out in the free world? I think that it's like, okay, yeah, maybe their program was a little too progressive, and they thought that the inmates were trustworthy enough to go out and come back. But at the end of the day, if you thought that this person was well behaved enough to be left unattended by security or by the officers of the prison, why pursue him just because he didn't follow those particular rules? I don't know. I just feel like they should leave it where it was, just based on his merit, the merit that he earned to get him in the position. If he couldn't be trusted, he would not have been put in that program that allowed him to get free. So I don't know, those are my thoughts.